Hi Gemini, this is a relationship reading for April 2019. I'm Raina, and my intention with this reading is to spark ideas within yourself about the nature of your relationship, whether you should continue with it, whether it has merit anymore, or whether or not it's time to part ways with the person in question. These readings for relationships are intended for people who have problems within their relationship, but they're not meant to be fortune-telling readings. They're just meant to look at your life, see the synchronicity, see the things that are really aligned with what's going on with you. That's always fun when you see a reading and it really goes along with your particular life. I remember when I first got tarot cards, and I didn't know anything about spreads or anything like that, and I would just pick these cards, and there would be this sense of synchronicity, or I could feel the connection. And it's not about the cards themselves. It's not about giving these things power. It's about being able to see in every aspect of your life things that are messages and symbols and how everything is interconnected. Okay. Boy, that's a real... the first two cards I have are pretty interesting because they're two major arcana cards. The first card I picked was the Death card, so that was kind of funny because I was being so deep, and then I got the death card. I'm going to pick an additional card because of the nature of that card. All right. Sometimes I wonder if the Five of Swords is your sign, Gemini. Just because you're swords and you're the 5th month. At least part of it, right? So the heart of the matter is the Death card. What does the Death card mean? A lot of people get literal and they think somebody's going to die. No, the Death card is about transition and how people... I was going to say, I said trans. I didn't say transition at first because it's also about transformation. So in relationships, the transition period is when you know something is over with, but you don't know exactly how to deal with it because it's not always that clean. You know, it can get very messy to end a relationship that needs to be ended. As I stated at the beginning, these readings are for people that have already been struggling in relationships. They're not for people who have wonderful relationships, because what would be the point of watching if you have a wonderful relationship? So anyway, death is about the idea of, one thing ends and something else begins. Even in death, there's a new journey. So let's keep going, because the Death card is also connected to Scorpio, if that means anything to anybody. But in the past position, we have the Hangman, which is connected to Pisces, and it's a card of being in a state of suspension. And suspension meaning that it's not about being hung out to dry, although that could be the negative connotation. But it means that there's a waiting period, or there had been. Maybe in some cases, there was a legal separation if you were married to somebody, and looking at the... it's funny, I was just thinking about somebody whose partner did die, and they're waiting a certain amount of time before they want to start dating again. I mean, that's always a possibility. I'm always intending these to be relationships that are ongoing. But I never thought about that angle, that somebody is a widow or widower and they still don't feel fully free because they don't want to just go right back into dating, even if there's somebody that they really are attracted to, because maybe they're afraid they'll look bad if they do that. They'll make it seem like they didn't care about their former spouse. And even if you deeply love someone, you may get involved sometimes because of grief. They say that men don't handle death as well as women, so that might even be quicker with men who are widowers. So I'm going to leave that one alone, but I just wanted to bring that up in case that was relevant for anybody. But in terms of just the other people, you know, you may have assumed that your relationship is pretty much over, but you wanted to make sure, and so you waited. And waiting can simply be separating physically, but staying legally, married, or even if you're not legally married, there's not that final moving out and moving on with your life. Like somebody just is temporarily living somewhere else, but it's not that final break. So whatever that hangman means to you, some kind of a waiting period, or maybe you were just kind of like letting go of the need to control the situation, that could be also, because the hangman can be surrender, which is not necessarily, it's not giving up. It's about letting go of the need to control, and that's a different emotion or mentality. That, you know, it's not about accepting defeat or anything like that. It's just that you're not as involved in the idea that you can control what other people do, which is a good thing. That's a good place to get to. Now, the higher message is the Three of Pentacles. So this is a card that we call the Architect's card. In this particular deck, the Rider-Waite deck, Pamela Coleman's illustration, I always thought that there was a baby in this woman's arms and that they were like baptizing the baby or something. I don't even know if I'm correct about that. But it's a 3 and it's a Pentacles. So it's about things that are productive and creative. And you know, they say 1 + 1 = 3 when you're conceiving a child. Okay, so the number 3 with Pentacles is like these tangible results. And it's actually, you know, if I was doing a general reading, I would talk about teamwork in the office place, co-workers and things like that. So in this particular context, it could be talking about a third party involved in the situation. So if you're somebody who has been kind of hanging on to a serious relationship in the hopes that it's going to somehow magically resurrect itself, if you feel like it's on its last legs, the higher message may be that there's really this other party as part of this. And so it's making it harder for you and this person to reconcile, because that other party is, I don't want to say the word interfering, because really that party is not the person that the focus should be upon, but your partner. If you're not the one having an affair and your partner is, then that's on them, that they are choosing to bring somebody else into it. But it's almost like saying that this person is now a part of this relationship. And so that's where the death comes in, because it's not something that is like an open relationship where all 3 parties know of each other, and it's not like, you know, that there's secrecy or anything, or deception or anything like that. So that's one possible interpretation. The other one can be if your relationship was not founded on solid ground, then this could be kind of like showing this to you, that this is why it did not last, because it was hastily begun without maybe a lot of thought, and as a result there was an instability created, because especially, like, let's say if a child was brought into this, as I said, this could be a card of, conceiving a child, and it could be that it brought the two parties, you and the other party, together more seriously in I don't want to say a superficial way, because it's, a child obviously isn't superficial, but the relationship might have been superficial, and then this heavy element of heavy responsibility of a child was brought into it, and it just didn't have the proper foundation for it to be sustained. Even with that type of responsibility, it just couldn't maintain itself. What is crossing you is represented by the Ace of Wands. This kind of like goes along with the card I just was talking about, because the Ace of Wands in the challenged position is about doing things very thoughtlessly, rashly, without thinking. I would really associate that with an Aries energy, and that's certainly true with Aries. Is as a sign, this is a fire energy, but it's almost like getting caught up in passion. Maybe there was a strong physical attraction to somebody, and again, if the relationship led to the conceiving of a child, then that threw it into this serious category prematurely, and the choice that was made very haphazardly. It wasn't thought out. So the relationship was kind of like this whirlwind type of situation, and then before you know it, you were like in up to your eyeballs, And even if it didn't lead to a child, I mean, people still get caught up in the passion of a situation, and before they know it, they're feeling emotional feelings, or maybe even thinking that they do, and it's really more of the physical and not, lust versus love, that kind of thing. And they're getting confused and thinking it's love, That could also be what's going on. What's coming in is represented by the Ace of Swords. This is a card of cutting through all of the illusion and seeing things as they really are. So there's a sense of new beginnings with this, especially since you are swords. But it's not just about new beginnings, but it's new beginnings based upon knowing what's really going on. Maybe you were kind of a little bit deluded by the situation. And by the way, speaking of delusion, Neptune is in Pisces. So all of the mutable signs are affected by this. I am a Sagittarian, you're a Gemini, Virgo. All these signs are affected by inharmonious aspects to Pluto, to Neptune. I mean, I said to Pluto, to Neptune in Pisces. And therefore, this can impact all the mutable signs in different ways. Even, Pisces having it in their own sign. It's funny, whenever I am looking at interpretations for aspects to Neptune, even the positive aspects, they kind of, a lot of times will still rag on them because of the nature of Neptune to begin with, Although Neptune is a spiritual influence, and it has a certain aura, glamour, otherworldly quality. The fact that it can kind of, and it can be very enchanting and alluring, it can be very confusing. It can be very deceptive. And so it's possible that you thought a situation was different than it really was. And you made it more than it really was. So now you're seeing things more clearly. And there could be different reasons why this is. It might be with the Death card that this other person does something that makes you feel, okay, that's the last straw. I've had enough of this, you know. I've been hanging around long enough waiting for change that hasn't happened, so I'm, you know, going to make my own moves. And I did pick an additional card because this was the outcome, the Five of Swords. And this is, with the Five of Swords, you can see that there are other people in the background. Sometimes this is an empty victory where a person, you know, wins the battle but loses the war. And really, with that type of situation, it's if somebody is angry. An example would be, even if somebody does another person wrong, if the person who is the so-called victim takes revenge in some way, and then they feel like they got the upper hand because they did that, they might have won the battle, but they lost the war because they sunk down to somebody else's level. So that's one possible interpretation, but I don't think that that is a behavior that I would associate with Gemini. I think more likely that what this is referring to is seeing things as they really are, and then it starts to come out. Like maybe you see things as they really are, and you're able to take a stand. You're able to make your move if you were thinking of leaving the relationship. And then maybe after the fact, you find out that this person had this double life or something that you didn't even suspect. Like it wasn't even the half of what they were doing. So I did pick an additional card as clarification, and I got the Eight of Cups. And I was like, okay, that makes sense, because this is a card of leaving what no longer serves you. And I always say that, you know, this is a card that's also associated with spiritual quests. So a person who is like searching for more meaning in their life. But I always say that it's not enough to leave a situation. You have to have a place, you know, you have to have an idea of where you're going to. And I don't mean like a literal place, but it's not, I mean, except if you're, you know, if there's some kind of like dangerous situation where you just have to get out of there no matter what. But I'm talking about in general. It's about having a vision for your life so that you're not just, you know, leaving this situation or that situation, because then that becomes escapism, and that's what Neptune is associated with. And, you know, Gemini does like to change anyway, and does tend to get bored very easily. So this is not like that. This isn't about like, oh, I'm bored, I want a new stimulation. This is about something at the soul level, because we're talking about cups here. So it's about really feeling that there's more to life than whatever it is that you're dealing with. Interestingly, I wouldn't be surprised if this Eight of Cups connects with Scorpio. I always connect it, of all the water signs, you know, Scorpio, Cancer, Pisces, I connect it with Scorpio because Scorpio is the 8th house, and these are cups. And then I got the Death card. So that's interesting. I don't know. Maybe the Scorpio person has come into your life and it's made you realize that you need to have a deeper interaction with life. I always look at the centerpiece which would be that card, the death card, as, you know, maybe if it's a relationship, the person you're with now, but that might not be the case for some people. It might be that that's a person that you are going towards. So who knows? In any case, that's what I have for you, Gemini. If you'd like a more personalized reading, where I'm looking at your natal chart for love readings and stuff like that, please check me out online. I'm at rainaMoonAstrology.com, and the link is below. Have a great April. Bye.